Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Charting and Data Visualization Tricks in Excel. The webinar is sponsored by More for Apps. My name is Stephanie DiPaolo, and I will be your moderator for this event, and I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today. I have with me today Bill Jelen, who needs no introduction, but I'll give you one anyways. Bill is the host of MrExcel.com and the author of 64 books about Microsoft Excel, including Excel Gurus Gone Wild, Pivot Table Data Crunching, and Excel Inside Out. He has made over 80 guest appearances on TV's Call for Help with Leo Laporte and was voted Guest of the Year on the Computer America radio show. He has produced over 2,400 episodes of his Excel video podcast, Learn Excel from Mr. Excel. And before founding MrExcel.com in 1998, Jelen spent 12 years in the trenches as a financial analyst for the accounting, finance, marketing, and operations departments of a publicly held company. And before we get started, I'd like to review a few items with you. First, make sure you save the date for our next Mr. Excel webinars that we will send out shortly. Also, you will get our slides via email after this event, a recording within 24 hours, and Bill will be sharing a link to the PDF version of his book in the chat. So make sure you keep a lookout for that and save that. And please, at the end, we do have a survey that will automatically populate. It's just 3 questions, and we'd like to know how we did today with the webinar. As a reminder, you must complete 3 out of our 4 live poll questions during the webinar in order to receive your CPE credit. Bill will be emailing them to you directly within 1 week. Okay, and a little bit about More for Apps. More for Apps started in 2000 by a group of Oracle consultants in search of a better way to load and manage data from a spreadsheet directly connected to Oracle ERP. Now, 22 years later, we offer nearly 30 out-of-the-box wizards built specifically for Oracle eBusiness Suite and Oracle Cloud ERP with validated integration and tight security. More for Apps is a market leader offering 24/7 global support coverage for 400 plus customers and 34,000 plus end users. We aim to improve data operational efficiencies, productivity, and accuracy of data entry. And now, without further ado, Bill, I will hand it over to you. Oh, Bill, I think you're muted. Nope, still
there
muted.
we are. There we go.
There we go.
That's it.
Okay.
All right, Stephanie.
Over to you.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Wow. All right. Let's I'm really excited to be here today. We're going to go over a lot of great charting and data visualization tricks in Excel, some things that are brand new. For the things that aren't brand new, though, everything we talk about today is in this book, Mr. Excel 2022, Boosting Excel. If you've been here before, you probably already have the PDF. Otherwise, that link is over in the chat panel. Feel free to download that. These things that are brand new, we're going to get started off with a new one about dynamic arrays. You know, those will be in next year's book, the 2023 book. So hopefully you keep coming to the webinars and you'll get the updated book next year. All right, let's share the screen here. Share. All right, the plan, my general plan for today, what we're going to talk about is the charts can now be based on dynamic arrays, sort of the way that it worked on control T tables before. We'll take a look at 2 different map charts, regular map charts, and then a pivot table on a map. And then just, how to create the perfect one-click chart. If you have an existing chart, how to add more data to the chart. And then the new improved combo charts for when you have 2 orders of magnitude. I used to have to show, what was it, like a forecast accuracy percentage and a forecast. So it was $6 million and a number like 70 or 80%, and you couldn't see the other number, was too small. One really cool trick for that. Now we'll take a look at very small charts, data visualizations and spark lines, how to add a trend line to a chart, and then take a look at the new charts, these new Ivy charts that Microsoft introduced. It's so funny, we've been stuck with 73 charts in Excel for such a long time. And then they give us like 6 or 7 new charts. But like they seem to have lost interest, or the person in charge of Ivy charts moved on or something. So they're just kind of orphaned out there. They're weird. They're hard to use. I'll take a look at waterfall charts, bell curve. And then, boy, just today's video on my YouTube channel is about a brand new product called Zebra BI, which is free. I'm going to show you how easy it is to create a variance chart over with that. I'm just really impressed. All right, so that's kind of the plan. If there's any questions, throw those in the chat panel, and we'll try and deal with those as we go through. 4 CPE questions as we go through for those of you that need CPE. All right, so this example came out in September. It's still in what they call insiders beta. So this is Microsoft 365. You're paying for the monthly subscription, or your company is, and you can opt into, instead of the monthly channel, something called Insiders, Microsoft Insiders. And it's free to opt in. Just go Google how to join Microsoft Insiders. The problem is there's 2 different channels in Insiders. There's the targeted, they have a horrible name for the one, which is the default, and then beta. You want to join the beta channel if you need this functionality. All right, so let's just start from the beginning here. Back in 2019, they introduced some great new functions in Excel, functions that allow us to return an array. All right, so what we're doing here is I'm using a filter function, sort of new, relatively new function to go through and pull data from columns K and L, where the rank is less than or equal to 5, right? And what that's going to do, let's see what the first one is. So Cummins engine at number 4 would appear first in the list. So I send that filter function into the sort. And then I selected that data and insert chart. So this chart is based on that data, but now check out what happens when I change the number 5. Let's go to 10, let's say. So, whoops, too many. 10, not 19, 10. So now that filter function is returning all of the things with a rank less than or equal to 10. I get 10 answers, and the chart automatically updates. We used to have all kinds of weird tricks for this, like using the filter, the auto filter, but that actually requires someone to go click on something. And that's not if you're watching this webinar, you have no problem going up data, filter, applying the filter, right? But if we're building a dashboard for, our vice president or a couple levels up above us, there's no way anyone is ever going to be able to do that if they're not an Excel pro, right? So now just having a way that we key in a number there, and as we key it, change that number, the chart automatically updates. That's just a cool bit of functionality. And again, it's in Office Insiders, which you can opt into, or you can just wait. With any luck, the monthly channel will have that maybe January of 2023, and the people on that semi-annual channel, and I know a lot of companies are on the semi-annual channel, that you're probably looking at July of 2023. But, like I say, a dozen maple cream sticks to the IT department will, get them to upgrade you to the Insiders channel. Just say, hey, I saw this amazing thing from MrExcel. It'll, we'll save thousands of dollars, or, Joe Schmo, the vice president of your department, will love this, or, something. You can figure it out. Okay, so that's our first one. New, that charts allow dynamic arrays. Next up, we want to talk about map charts. Now, there's 2 different types of map charts that we have, and they're both here on the Insert tab. One is this little globe here. It's called a filled map chart. And then the other one is 3D map. We're going to get started off with the simple one, the filled map chart. And I have data here, just some US states. Not sure which states these are, or why I have those particular states in this case. So we'll go to Insert and then choose a filled map chart. And it'll be interesting to see how this comes out over Zoom. I want you to watch the screen real quick. It was too fast. It flashed by too fast. Initially, we get a map of just the selected states, which I think is perfect and exactly what I want. But then a few seconds later, they download all the other state outlines that aren't selected and give us those. And I think that just looks horrible. So this is one of those new Ivy charts. Ivy stands for not really finished, right? I mean, that's, just be honest. Sorry, Microsoft, if anyone from Microsoft hears this recording, but that's really what it means. So format data series. Over here on the right-hand side, we have map projection, map area, and map labels. And what we're going to do is map area. We're going to say only regions with data. And that very nicely will zoom the map into just the region that we're dealing with. So if you have customers in just this region, this makes a lot of sense. The map labels, it sounds like best fit only, but what that means is any long label in a small state will not be shown at all. So I'm not a fan of best fit. I always do show all, right? And you see Ohio works great, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Kentucky all work. But at least here I can see it's West something, right? And then I can figure out it's West Virginia, especially when we get it like which one is Vermont, which one is New Hampshire. If I don't have a V or an N there, there's no way I'm going to be able to talk about that, right? So the map chart, and this goes well back to 2017. Like if you have Excel 2019 or Excel 2021 or Microsoft 365, there should be no problem with that. All right, so we have here we have county data. And I even chose counties that cross the state line. So I have county, state, and a number, and then insert map chart like this. Yeah, see, this is one where clearly, I really think the default should be only the regions with data, right? Because just having those tiny little counties there doesn't work. So format data series, I was right-click, format data series, and then map area, only regions with data. And then let's add the labels in, show all, so we can kind of figure out which counties they are there, right? So counties are cool. It's even possible, and the book has an example on this, on not to do numbers, but to actually, you know, like here, these are Atlantic states, Gulf Coast states, the Panhandle, and then the landlocked states are, or counties are gray, right? So you can manage to pull this off, and even a map by zip code, right? So if you have hyper local data, and you want to see like customers by zip code, so you know where to advertise or something like that. So this is my county here in Florida, Brevard County, and we have all of the zip codes are on the left, and the darker colors are the higher numbers, right? So that's the map chart. They call them field map charts. Field map, yeah. It's there on the charting group, and they date back to about 2017 or so. So if you have Office 2016, you probably don't have it, but anything newer than that, 2019, 2021, you're good. You're good there. But what I think is far more interesting is the pivot table on a map. You know, if you've been to any of my other seminars, I love pivot tables. Pivot tables are the greatest thing. And what I have here, this is a crazy data set I downloaded from the internet. It has 5,475 rows of data. And you'll notice in column B, I have a street address and then a city and state. Kind of hacked off. I got this data for free, and they didn't bother to fill in the zip code in a lot of places, but that's okay. The address, city, state will be enough for this feature to work. And I added some columns out here on the far right-hand side. These are libraries, as you can see. The main library is true for main libraries, false for branch libraries. I'm going to use that to color code items on the map. So it's good to have, you know, a column that you can use for color. And then the height column is just, it's a fake column in this particular data set that I'm going to use to create the different items in the map. And you'll see that there's two dates here, the date that we mailed something to them and the date that we figured that it actually got to the librarian. All right, so we're going to put all of this data on a 3D map. Now, if you're back in Excel 2013, this is where it debuted. It was called Power Map originally. And then in Excel 2016, they renamed it to be 3D Map. It's always right after the charts group on Windows, not in Excel for Mac yet. And you know, the backstory on this, Microsoft was really concerned about Tableau. Before Microsoft had Power BI, they were concerned about Tableau. And Tableau came out with this feature, and Microsoft rushed to match, right? So a little competition is good for Microsoft because it forces them to add features, you know, really, really quickly. And this was an example of that. All right, so for those of you familiar with pivot tables, here's our pivot table field list. This is a list of all the fields at our disposal. And then the drop zones over here, instead of rows, columns, values, and filters, we have height and category. So I took that main library versus branch library and dragged it down to category. For the height of each column, I just used my fake little height field here, and they chose to sum that. And then the date that the librarian received the mailing. All right, so you'll see here that, you know, for my 5,400 records, I pretty much go coast to coast, and I even have one little library there in Hawaii, or several libraries in Hawaii that are causing the zoom to break, basically. So, you know, one outlier will cause them to zoom out a little bit. And you can always zoom in using these tools down here, the plus and minus. There's also great keyboard shortcuts for this, like Control and wheel mouse in or out to zoom. And then some other tricks. The Alt key left and right will rotate. but then the Alt key up and down will let you look more from the ground level or the sky like that. All right, so let's zoom in here on the east coast of Florida and cruise down to West Palm Beach. All right, so you can see these are all libraries. I mean, it's fascinating just to get a feel for, which libraries are inland. I mean, here's a main library that's not too far from the beach. I can actually cruise right down, and you see we kind of have a little barrier island here. I mean, this is amazing that there's a library, right on beachfront property in Pompano Beach, right? So you can zoom in and get a really close look. You can even kind of look at the, what's around the library. So it looks like just south of this library, there's some sort of little park there or something like that. I mean, it'd be great for real estate investors, I suppose, or just anyone who needed to, I don't know. There's all kinds of things you could use this for. But what I really like is animating this data over time, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays on Zoom. So because I took a date field and I moved it down to the time area, when I drag this, they call it a scrubber. I don't know, is that a real word? I'm going to drag the scrubber back to the beginning of time, and you'll see that the very first data points are in basically Cincinnati and Columbus, Ohio, right? So I think we had mail from Akron, Ohio, so that kind of makes sense. That was on September 26th. I'll let this play for a little bit, and you'll be able to watch how the data animates over time, so we can watch the mailing spread out across the country. You can actually just grab the slider and go back to any point and see what it looked like at that point. So like if this was advertising a book that was going to come out on October 24th, well, we really mailed it way too late because we missed half the country over here. So all kinds of great insights you can get from that 3D map chart. All right, so there's an example of 3D maps. This is a great spot to put up the first of our CPE questions. If you can do that, Stephanie. Okay, question number one. Which map type can animate data over time? Is it A, filled map charts, B, 3D maps, C, power map, or D, geoflow? One of those is the chart type that I just showed you. Great for taking data with a geography component and animating it over time. All right, very good. 3D maps, that's it, 78%. Oh, nice job. Did used to be called Power Map. Even longer before that, it was when it was in beta, it was called GeoFlow. It's funny how Microsoft comes up with these, pet names for the project when the developers have it, and then the marketing people will get in there and they come up with their perfect name. All right, next, I want to talk about just the traditional charts that have been in Excel forever, right? And we're going to build to the perfect one-click chart. So we're going to get started off here. I have data that I want to add to a chart. So these 4 regions and the number of units that we sold to those regions. On the Insert tab, there are a series of dropdowns here in the chart group. And ever since Excel 2013, we've had this thing called recommended charts. And if you just don't know where to start, there's a little bit of artificial intelligence in here where they take a look at the data and try and figure out, based on the shape of the data, whether it has dates or not, what type of chart would make sense. So they're offering a clustered column chart. They're actually offering a map chart. They're offering a pie chart. And my example today is going to be with the pie chart, even though a lot of people hate pie charts. Clustered bar chart. And then I laugh every time. For some reason, the 5th chart that this dialog offers every single time is a funnel chart. Funnel charts were new in 2017. They're one of the 6 newest charts we have. And the only thing I can figure is the person who created funnel charts is the person that created this dialog box. And if they can't fill up all 5 suggestions, the 5th one is a funnel chart. So if you ever use this, just go check and see if the 5th one is a funnel chart, and it will, embrace my theory that there's something happening behind the scenes there, that those people who created the funnel chart are just trying to get us to realize that the funnel chart is there. And what's funny, I never use funnel charts at all, like a sales funnel. I hardly ever show those. I don't even think I'm going to show one today. So, other than the fact that they put it there, in recommended charts, they wouldn't have even been mentioned today. So good for them. All right, pie chart. I'm going to go with the 2D pie. There's a couple of interesting things here. The exploded pie or the bar of pie. They call this a pie of pie or bar of pie. We're going to stay away from the, oh, you know what? Oh, yeah. For those of you who hate pie charts, you hate 3D pie charts even more. What the heck? Let's just do it. All right. I'm going to get some heat for using the pie chart to begin with. So we might as well go full on bad and go with the 3D pie chart. Let's just make it really bad. Okay, so down here we have a legend. At the top, we have a chart title. Chart titles are very frustrating to me because if you click and just start typing sales by region, it really appears that nothing is happening because I am looking right here at the chart title. You have to look up in the formula bar, right? When you look in the formula bar, you can actually see what you're typing. So instead, if we do something that you didn't even know was a thing, if you come to the chart title and you can manage to triple click, not a double click, a triple click, then you can edit right in place. Let me try it. 1, 2, 3. Ah, good. I did it. Triple click. So sales by region in an ugly pie charts. So triple click the title. I think when I first wrote that in the book, I was being a little bit sarcastic, but then later I heard someone on the Excel team call that a triple click. I'm like, see, right? It really is a thing. Okay, down here we have a legend, and the legend is taking up a little bit of space. To get rid of the legend, I'll click on the legend and delete. But now we can't tell what the various items are, so I want to add chart labels. And that's the plus sign on the right-hand side. That plus sign ever since Excel 2016. We can add data labels, right? And what they're doing is they're putting the number of units, which is not what I want. Luckily, there's a little flyout here. So the flyout menu just frustrates me because still not what I want. They're controlling whether it's on the center, inside end, outside end, right? Then we have to go to more options. I love how they hide things where you're never going to find them, right? So we click on the plus sign, click on data labels, click on the flyout, click on more options, and then we get this chart, this panel over here with label options and text options. And each group, there's different little icons that are very mysterious. I'm always looking for the 3-column chart, right? That always seems to have what I need. And so what I want to show there is the category name and the percentage, category name and percentage, but not necessarily the value. So for each category, we can see the name of the category and the percentage like that, right? So you can change it, just hard to change. In my case, Australia and England look great because they're outside. The black writing for United States here on the purple background is really hard to see. And I want to fix that, but we have to be a little bit careful. Right now, you can see that all 4 labels are selected. So any change we make will change all 4 labels. But when the labels are selected, a second click on one label, now I've selected 1 point. And I can come here to the Home tab and apply a little bit of white font or something like that to change the color of that one label. So it's possible to change an individual label, just kind of hard. You have to first click on the labels to select all of them, second click to select that one label, and then we can do the formatting like that. All right, 2 more cool tricks here with pie charts. I'm going to right click on the pie and go to Format Data Series. And these 2 settings over here called Angle of First Slice. Angle of first slice. So I'm going to grab the little slider and drag it around to try and get those small slices to appear in the lower right-hand corner of the chart. There's just more room for the labels to stretch out down here. So, in this case, about 92 or so. I'm a fan of this. I always like to rotate the charts to make the labels look better. But then the second item is a weird one. It's called a pie explosion. I'll just do a small explosion there. What it does is it takes all of those wedges and it moves them apart like that. And I don't get this. I don't understand how this makes the chart any better. And that's a 27% explosion. They allow us to go up to a 400% explosion. Like, who would ever want this to be there, right? So, while I love angle of first slice and being able to rotate the pie chart, I'm not a fan of pie explosion. But here's the place where this is really useful. Okay, so let's just click once on the pie. And when I do that, I can look and see that there's a dot at every corner of each wedge. That means that I've selected the entire pie. A second click on just Australia, and now I've selected that one region, right? It's a single point. And up here, I can even see it says format data point. All right, now that I've selected that one region, I'm going to do a point explosion and pull that one slice of the pie out a little bit. So if I know that today's meeting, we're going to be talking about Australia, this is a great way to go. All right, again, to do that, first click selects all the wedges, second click selects the one we want, and then you can actually just, nope, doesn't work anymore. All right, great. Undo. Oh, terrible. All right, I screwed that one up. Let's keep going. Okay, one-click charts. So here we have data. I'm going to select the data, dates across the top, regions down the side, and we can create a chart in one keystroke. There's actually two keystrokes that we could do. The old keystroke was F11. That creates a chart as a brand new worksheet, chart sheet, actually, not a worksheet, or Alt F1, and you're going to get some chart. I'm very surprised that I got this chart. This is not the chart that I thought I would get. I thought that I would get a clustered column chart. Most of the time you'll get a clustered column chart. Let's figure out why we didn't get that clustered column chart. If I go into recommended charts, actually we'll go to the chart dialog launcher. This is the chart that I thought I would get, the clustered column. So I'm going to right click, column, clustered column, right click. Hilarious. Okay, that's the chart that I thought I would get. Let's just go ahead and get it. There we are. So we have east, central, and west. Numbers along the left-hand side. These numbers are in thousands, so I'm getting zeros after each one. And then chart title. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to add data labels. And I get the absolute number. That's great. I had a manager once. This guy was crazy. He was a former sales rep. He wasn't my manager. He was three levels up, but I was creating charts for him. And he's like, red, I hate red in your charts. Stop giving me red. Red is bad. That means that we lost money. Never give me red. So if I just choose that one series and then on the home tab, come here to the fill, I can change the color of that to orange or something, just that way my manager would not flip out. On the left-hand side, I'm going to choose the numbers on the left-hand side. And then over here in the three columns, I'm going to go to axis options. And they have a setting called display units, right? This is really useful. So that was left click on the numbers on the left-hand side, go to the three column chart and then look for display units. And in this case, I'll go to thousands. There's choices for millions, billions, or trillions. And it does two things to this chart. First off, I get a little tag here and I just have 35 instead of 35,000. And all the data labels now fit because they're in thousands as well. All right, if your numbers are in millions or billions, it's even more important to do those things. All right, so there's our perfect chart. Let's just call this the sales chart. All right, now this is the chart that I want to get the next time that I press Alt F1. So I'm going to right click on this chart and say save as template. And we're going to call it the more for apps charts. Now, the next time that I have to create this chart, I'll select the data and go into Insert, All Charts, and there's a setting here for templates, and I can find my More for Apps charts, right? So I can choose that. There it is. Okay. And if that's the chart that I always want, I'm going to right-click and say Set as Default Chart. And now forevermore, when I press Alt F1, I'll get blue, orange, and green instead of the red, right? So just a little bit of work there to create the perfect chart. And then Alt F1 is a great way to go. All right, next trick. This trick. This goes way back. You can see this chart is using an old style, Excel 2003 style gradient. That's how long I've been using this trick. You see that we have data across the bottom, January through May. My job when I worked in accounting was the last day of the month, our manufacturing plant worked till midnight shipping stuff. On the first day of the month, they did all the invoicing. On the second day of the month, I would get the file, right? And then I had 10 reports, 10 charts and reports that I update every month. And this was so long ago. Oh, it's so embarrassing. There was no intranet. We didn't have a company intranet. We actually printed these out in color and hung them on the bulletin board down in the manufacturing plant, right? So it was my job to update these charts. And every month I would start over from scratch. But I never would have had to do that. Right, you see that we now have data for June. The chart has data for January through May. there's data for June, and I'm going to show you an amazing way to add this data to that existing chart. I'm going to select the new data, including the heading, and then copy, Control C like that. And now I'm going to click on the chart. All right, so Control C to copy. What's the shortcut key to paste? It's Control V. Watch the right side of the chart. I'm going to press Control V, and it takes that new data and adds it to the chart like that. So if we add July 2022, let's give everyone 25,000 here to be quick. That was Control Enter, by the way. Control C to copy, right click and paste, and it adds new data to the right-hand side of the chart. Just an awesome, awesome trick. Now, what if we needed to take January off the left side? Well, we can't, unfortunately, we can't Control X. The copy doesn't work, but when you click on the chart, there's that nice little blue outline there, and in each corner of the outline is a little handle. I can grab any handle and remove January off the left side. You can also use that to add new data to the right-hand side if the chart and the data are on the same workbook. All right, Stephanie, that brings us to question number 2, CPE question number 2. Put that one up. All right, question 2, what is the easiest way to add data to a chart? Is it A, drag and drop, B, Control C and Control V, C, use the blue handle on the edge of the data, or D, what I used to do every single month, start over from scratch and recreate all the charts? Okay, very good. Copy and paste, that is the correct answer. Blue handle also works. I think we should give credit for either one of those, Stephanie. And it's funny, for those of you who said drag and drop, you might remember the old days. Like we're talking Excel 97. That would be when you could take that July and drag it and drop it on the chart. That no longer does anything though, other than put it behind the chart, I guess. Yep. Yeah. So it used to be drag and drop, but not anymore. All right. These next 2 tricks came along in Excel 2016. They're pretty interesting. This is an annoying data set that you can see here. I have 12 months and 4 quarters and a grand total. And when I select this data and try and create that chart, it is going to be an ugly, ugly chart because the quarters are way too large. So you have these tiny months and then the huge quarters and the huge grand total. So in the past, what I would do is I would, make a copy of the data, take out the things I didn't want, links back to the original data. It was just ugly. But they gave us in Excel 2016 this little funnel here, chart filters. And we can just come in here and say, hey, I want to see Q1 or Q2 or Q3 or Q4 or the total, and click apply. All right, and now we get a nice little sales chart like that without the extra quarters and things screwing things up. All right, so that was just the funnel on the right-hand side, that little funnel right there. Magnitude. This is my example of 2 different orders of magnitude. I'll get rid of this one. So insert a column charts is going to look terrible. You can see that the legend says there's profit there, but the profit is so small, no one can see it. And this process improved dramatically in Excel 2016. In the all charts group, there's a new group called combo. Actually, and if we just let them recommend a chart here, I think they're going to get it right. Yeah, the first recommended chart is the right thing. So we could have just chosen that one from the recommended charts, but let's see how we build this under combo in case you need to build it from scratch. So we have revenue as a clustered column, line, our profit is going to be a line, and the line we should have on the secondary axis. So now on the left-hand side, we have numbers that go from 0 to 30,000. On the right-hand side, we have the gross profit percent that goes from, in this case, 30 to 41%, like that. Click OK. So the secondary axis is the key for that whole thing. What I used to do to try, especially if I'm printing in color, which of course I suppose we always print in color today, don't we? Yeah, I remember back in the day when accounting only had black and white printers. To print in color, we had to go downstairs to the marketing department who had one color printer and beg them to let us print our charts in color. That was so long ago. All right, so I chose these numbers over here. These numbers correspond to the blue columns. I'll change that font to be the same blue. And then the line in red, I'll choose the numbers on the right-hand side and change that font to be the same red. just to kind of give some visual indication that the line is the right axis and the columns are the left axis. All right, one more trick, and this was a trick I used to use all the time. These were all of the products, model 107, 113, 112, and so on. And we had some high-flying products that we sold the most of, but then we had a whole bunch of small products, that we sold 1,000 of. And I was taking the forecast from the salespeople and getting it to the manufacturing plant. And the manufacturing plant was really big on forecast accuracy because they're like, hey, we staffed up, we hired a bunch of workers, and that order never came in. We bought a bunch of parts, the order didn't come in. And this data is so hard to see if we would just select forecast and actual, insert a line chart, let's say. All right, so forecast is in blue, actual is in red, and we're trying to see whether or not we were close. For all of these products from M103 to the left, no one can tell what's going on because they're just so small. So there's a great math thing called a logarithmic scale. And I'm embarrassed that I can't explain that other than it makes this chart look right. So right click, format axis, and then over here, there is a checkbox for logarithmic scale like that. And what it does is it makes this distance from 1 to 10 be the same as the distance from 10 to 100, same as the distance from 100 to 10,000, or 100 to 1,000, and so on. So now for each item, we can see whether we were above or below the forecast. So log scale was one of those things that I would use all the time when I had tiny data and large data that I was trying to compare. I needed to show them both on the same chart. All right, so we got a few there, combo charts for 2 orders of magnitude. All right, next up, data. Actually, before we move on from charts, let's just do this quick example here of this great new product that came out yesterday called Zebra BI. And it was really interesting as I was talking to the Zebra BI folks, they cited some charting standards from this European group called the International Business Communication Standards. And I had never heard of this group. And when I went and looked them up, I instantly saw a name of a fellow that I knew. Gene Zalesny was the charting guru for McKinsey and Company. I've actually written back and forth to Gene. And when I heard that this professor, was trained by Gene, I'm like, okay, right, this is good. And so here's just a simple little chart showing the last 12 months of sales, right? And their point is, you can't tell whether this is good or bad unless we display a variance. We want to know, where were we last year for the same month, or what was the plan for this month? And then always add comments to explain. And I really love that one because that used to be my signature move. I would always put a little sticky note on the chart before I handed it to the vice president of sales with the elevator pitch. Like, if you run into the president of the company, the thing to tell him is this, right? So I was a huge fan of the comments. So here's a tiny little chart, CY is current year, PY is previous year, and a column there for comments. And look at these beautiful charts. They have a free version here. Just go to insert, get add-ins, and search for Zebra. And then it'll be in your My Add-ins group. I'll do Zebra BI charts for Office. All right. And this is cool. So last year we did 3.9 million. This year we did 5.2 million, which is great. We're up 33.4%. But there's problems here that I can see in this data. Like, we initially, the first 4 months, we were way up. We were doubling almost the numbers from before. And then we just kind of came into this nice little 31% range, but then something bad happened, right? There's something that happened here, and all of a sudden we were down. And then since then we've been up, but not as up as much as before. Comparing this chart here to this chart here, I can learn so much more about this chart. And it's funny, I'm always dealing with fake data. Like, I honed in on this, like, what's up with this? I went back into the fake data to try and figure it out. And when I figured it out, I put a little comment there, and that comment shows up in the chart. What an awesome thing. That's called Zebra BI. I just go to get add-ins. It works in PowerPoint too, PowerPoint and Excel. So both of those, they're a Power BI company. They've been making visualizations for Power BI. When I saw that chart, I'm like, wow, that is just like, the next time, I don't have a manager anymore, but my manager would love that new type of chart. And it's so cool because Excel, they gave us some new charts, but they're not cool, right? And so there's another company who's just stepping up and giving us a cool chart. All right, good. Let's talk about data visualizations. These are great tools that came along all the way back in Excel 2007. So we've had them forever. Really easy to add meaning to data using these three tools under conditional formatting. I'm going to talk about these groups right here in the middle: data bars, color scales, and icon sets. This is a manufacturing plant. We measure the reject rates by line for the last day, right? And so we have 5 lines, 8 hours. And to add meaning to this chart, I'm going to come to conditional formatting and go to color scales. They have 12 options there. You can go into more rules and design your own colors. I'm going to go with high numbers in red and low numbers in green, right? So now I can look at this and instantly I can see we had a problem right out of the blocks at line 2, 7 a.m. They had a really high reject rate. They improved towards average by the end of the day. Line 3 wasn't as bad in the first hour, but they got worse. Something happened here. In line 3, they were bad the whole day. Line 4 and line 5 were kind of between average and good. Line 1 was good almost the whole day, but towards the end of the shift, something bad, started to creep in there. Maybe it was just we were getting towards the end of the shift, or maybe the bad material that was here at line 3 made its way to line 1. Who knows? But at least we have some places to go check. So that is called a color scale. Next up, data bars. This creates a bar chart right in each cell. Be careful not to include the totals. I'm going to make a copy of this just so we can compare it later. So choose all of your numbers except for the total. Conditional formatting, data bars. I'm going to go with green because this is revenue. Look at that. So the largest customers get the largest swath of color. Small customers get hardly any color at all. So it kind of pulls your eye to the larger items. Out here, if I would include the grand total at the bottom, see that number's too big and it gets all of the colors. So data bars, it gets all of the color and everyone else gets no color at all. So to make this work, you have to make sure not to include any subtotals or grand totals in your data. And then icon sets. These were actually an add-in for Excel all the way back in 1999. I remember these. Originally, it was just traffic lights. So the icon sets. So it was these things right here. You could add green, yellow, and red. The problem with these is if someone's colorblind, they can't see the difference between the green and the red. So I always use the one that's 3 shapes, something like that. Or, the cell phone power bars maybe, or the consumer report symbols, whatever. It depends on your audience. I'm going to go with the 3 shapes. And the reason I don't like this is when we print it, we don't have grid lines anymore. So I'll turn the grid lines off. And for me, my eye is drawn right here to the middle of the page to that 82 in the green check mark, and they feel like they belong to each other, and they don't. When I click in the cell, that 82 belongs to the red X, which is a mile away from it. The green check mark actually belongs to the 2050. My initial reaction to this was I have to get the numbers closer to the icon, and there was nothing I could do to move the icon. The icon was always left aligned. But my first attempt was centering numbers, and if you work in accounting or finance, that's never going to fly with you. Having that ragged right edge in that column is going to drive you crazy very quickly. So when I went back to right align, I had never used these next 2 items called increase and decrease indent. So here I'm saying keep the numbers right aligned, but move them away from the edge of the cell a little bit. So by using that right indent, I think that's a better report, gets the numbers in the icon much closer to each other like that. Okay, so we have 3 things: color scales, data bars, and icon sets. So far, we've never had to touch anything, but there'll be times where you need to adjust things. I'm going to create a quick icon set here. There's something called 3 stars. Highest numbers get a gold star, lowest numbers get a white star, everyone else gets half a star. And it looks okay, right? But let's say that we have one person, Eddie, who was out for part of the quarter, didn't get anywhere near his quota, and is stuck down here at 30%. So we're going to compare what we're seeing right now to once Eddie has 30. See, all of a sudden, compared to that Eddie outlier, everyone is doing great. And that's not accurate, right? That's not the way it should be. So we can always, for all of the things we've done, go into conditional formatting and manage rules. And there's settings for all 3 of these. So here, the gold star is not going to be at a 67%. I'm going to use a number. That's the right thing to do. You have to be greater than or equal to 90 to get the gold star. And then tell you what, everyone else, if you didn't get 90% of your quota, no cell icon. There's no half stars, no white stars. Either you got it or you didn't. Click OK, right? And now we have those icon sets for everybody over 90. All right, so there's three things there that we talked about. These are icon sets, these are data bars, and the color scale. Three tools there. Stephanie, let's go with CPE question number 3. All right, question number 3. Which of these is a tiny bar chart in the cell? Is it A, icon set, B, color scales, C, data bars, or D, tiny charts? We're talking about this item right here. Bar chart right inside the cell. All right. Hopefully everyone got this. Excellent, data bars. That's it. Yep, 78%. Very, very good. All right. Now, the other type of tiny charts. So everything I just showed you came in Excel 2007. The next one, Excel 2010. This was a great professor up in New England, Edward Tufte, actually wrote about these in 2007, met with the Microsoft team, met with the Excel team, and gave them permission to use his concept. And Professor Tufte, who's, by the way, still doing seminars today on charting and visualizations, Professor Tufte coined a new word called a spark line. And a spark line was a chart that fits in the size of a word. So where you would have a word, we're going to have a chart. So I have a lot of numbers here. Just go to insert. They're out on the far right-hand side, just beyond 3D maps. It can either be a line, column, or a win-loss. This is great for sports, like Major League Baseball teams. You can track very nice with win-losses. I see newspapers use this because it shows where they put together a streak of wins. So a line chart, I've already selected the data that's going to be charted. I select where the chart's going to go, click OK, and we get these tiny little spark lines. The longer the column is, the larger the chart is, like that. Every time I create these, I add markers. That allows me to count backwards. So here I can see that this one peaked 4 periods ago, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can change the color of the high point and the low point. So marker color, we'll go with markers in gray. We'll go with a high point in orange and a low point in blue. All right, so now you can see that we were in a virtual tie there for the last 3 periods. This one has been on a decline the whole time. This one, kind of peaked, fell off, and then peaked again. All right, so just, on a dashboard, just imagine on a dashboard, a great way to visualize that. Here's the baseball. They call this the win-loss. So this is a famous pennant race back in 1951, and you can see where the Giants managed to put together this whole series of wins to make it into the playoffs. Won the playoffs 2-1, but then lost the series 2-4, even though they jumped out to a 2-1 head start. Shout out to all the folks that are Phillies or Astros fans. Good luck to your teams. My Cleveland team surprised people, made it a little bit further than they expected, but ultimately knocked out by the dreaded Yankees. Okay, so those are spark lines. We talked about data visualizations and spark lines. Adding a trend line to a chart. So this one. Okay, this is great. This is a chart that I actually use all of the time. When I'm updating a book, it usually takes about 120 days. If you're writing a book from scratch, it's 120 days. And I notoriously find my way behind, right? So what I'll do is I'll build a schedule for the whole time that I'm going to be writing the book. And I need to get to 600 pages. So that means that what I would have to do, the track line is basically write 5 pages a day for 120 days. So I have a chart here with, this is my goal. This is the track. I have to be above that line to be on track. And then you start out, first day, it's a great day. You get 7 pages done. And the second day, you're like, oh, hey, I'm 2 pages ahead. I only need 3 days. And then something happens, right? Some other thing at work shows up, or or something happens and you don't get the pages written that day, and then the second day and the third day, and then you're like, oh no, I'm behind, right? And you think with this 5 and 6 you've somehow caught up. What I always do is I take that actual line and I right click, and I say add trend line. All right, and they draw the line in blue. Because I'm always ahead, I will change that line, format the trend line, and let's see colors here. I'm going to go with red. Let's see if I can the color is red. There we go. All right, this becomes known, sorry, I'm going to swear, as that darn red dotted line. This dotted line says, hey, Bill, if you keep writing at the pace you're writing now, at the 120 days, when your editor says, where's the book, you're going to have a 180-page book, right? And that line scares the heck out of me, right? So that forces me to come back and put together a really good, 10-page day, right? That still doesn't do it. I need another 10-page day. Still doesn't do it. Like now I crank it up to a 12-page day and then an 11-page day. All right. And I keep writing more than I should until that red trend line finally comes up above the track line, right? So that trend line is a great motivator for me to say, look, there's a good chance that you're going to have another opportunity to slack off and miss the pages, right? So, it forces me to stay up. Now, like, let's say that I just now come back to 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. I start writing on track. Everything's good. But then as soon as I have put together a couple of zeros, that trend line starts coming back down and kind of motivating me to improve. All right. For me, the trend line is enough. But when you create the trend line, format trend line, you can say that I want to display the equation on the chart. Oh my gosh, that takes me back to stats class in my freshman year of college, where y equals mx plus b, right? They'll put that right on the chart, and then right click format trend line. I can set the r squared. So remember, r squared close to 1 or -1 means that we have a very good correlation, that the trend line is doing a good job. So to add a trend line, take your actuals, right click and say add trend line, and you'll get this awesome thing here. That brings us to question number 4. If you can put that one up. All right, how to add a trend line to a chart. Is it A, right click on the line, add the trend line. B, go to the insert tab and say trend line. C, go to the chart design tab and say trend line. Or D, press Control Alt Shift T, which thankfully is not a thing in Excel, thankfully. Good. Okay. Right click the line, add trend line. That's perfect. That's right. Way to go. All right. New charts. These charts all came out right after Excel 2016. So right after Excel 20, like a week after Excel 2016, this was the opening salvo in the stop buying the perpetual editions of Office because you paid $400 for Excel 2016, Office 2016, and a week later it was obsolete because of these 6 new chart types. A histogram chart is just a column chart where the items touch each other. We could have done that with a regular column chart, but it was hard. A Pareto chart will organize those items from high to low and add a little line that adds up to 100%. The waterfall chart, let's build a waterfall chart here. I used to have to create waterfalls all the time. They were hard to do in Excel, and now it's just easy with one gotcha that you'll never figure out on your own. So we have things here like net revenue and gross income and net income. Those are things that have to touch the bottom line. So one click selects all the columns, second click selects that one line, right click, set as total. So anything that's supposed to touch the bottom, right click, set as total, and then here, right click, set as total. And we'll see how we got from our gross revenue, down to net income of 24,000. There should be one more, operating income, right click, set as total. Certainly easier than it used to be in the old days, but not obvious at all. And here's the other one. Like for me, I always had the totals one color, the increases another color, and the decreases another color. I could not find any way to change the colors of these. And finally, my friend John Peltier, who is a charting guru up in New England, he said, okay, first click selects the whole legend. Second click selects just decrease. Then go to home, fill, and choose red. I'm like, how would anyone ever find that? Again, this is one of those Ivy charts. Ivy means not really done yet. Box and whisker, tree maps. Oh my gosh, these are so confusing. What's going on here? So it breaks this into smaller groups. Yeah, I don't know. Sunburst charts. If pie charts are bad, this is even worse. And then the funnel chart. I lied. I said we wouldn't cover funnel charts, but we did. So those are the new charts. Those are the new charts that Microsoft has given us in the last 3 years. Yeah, just they're kind of strange. So we have the original 73 plus those new 7 and then map charts that they give us. All right, and then a bell curve. Let's do this one really quickly. Create a bell curve. You know, charting and graphing mathematical functions in Excel is one of those relatively, like, it's not built in. You have to build all your data yourself. So for a standard normal curve, if you remember, we always have a mean, like where's the average, and then something called a standard deviation. And the rule is that all, like 99.7% of the people will fall within 3 standard deviations of the mean. Oh my gosh, this is so boring. All right. Anyway, so from 150, you want to go down to 100, up to 200, and we just build a whole bunch of 60 is enough, 61 numbers down the left-hand side that very slowly get us from 100 up to 200. And then the thing that makes it work is this norm.dist function. So it plots the height of the curve for that particular X line, put comma false at the end, and you can draw a chart. You know, I have videos on YouTube. I have over 2,000 videos on YouTube, things that I love, like pivot tables. And if I put a pivot table chart up, you know, I'll get 2,000 views, and I'm happy with that. That's 2,000 people that got to learn how to do that. But I have one chart where I answer how to do a bell curve, and inexplicably, that chart, that video is my most popular video. It must be something that they have to do a lot. So I decided I'd throw it in here today. The book also shows how to take your employees and put your employees on a bell curve. We're out of time, so we'll let that one stay in the book. It's crazy. You put a video up on YouTube, you never know which ones are going to fly and which ones are just going to be average, I guess. All right, so there you go. That was very, very quick. Everything we talked about today, except for the 2 new charts, the one at the beginning, dynamic arrays and Zebra BI, is in this book, MrExcel 2022. Get that from the chat panel. Stephanie, I want to thank More for Apps for inviting me to all of these webinars this year. It's been so much fun to talk to your customers and prospects, and I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Bill, and we appreciate another great webinar. And for everyone attending, we will be coming out with the 2023 MrExcel webinar calendar soon, once we line those up with Bill. But please keep a lookout in your email tomorrow. We'll have the recording, we'll have the link to Bill's free book, and we'll have also some of the other related resources. Thank you, Bill. Everyone, please, if you could, take the survey at the end, and we hope you all have a good rest of your day.